We're talking wine labels again.
Yes.
We're talking Germany this time around, and we're
most confusing of the wine labels.
You know what? I thought that it was, but having dug into it, it's actually almost California-like. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wine by the Bay TV. I'm your host George Bachara. We are here with Igor and Vinous Reverie again. I feel like he's going to lock me out one of these days. I like hang out in the parking lot. I'm here so often. How you doing today?
Doing great, George. I love when you're around.
Where's your shirt? Where's your hat though? And is the shirt?
The shirt, no. The shirt's a cool shirt, but I got to have the goat.
Yeah, the goat is here with us. We're talking wine labels again.
Yes.
We're talking Germany this time around, and we're
most confusing of the wine labels.
You know what? I thought that it was, but having dug into it, it's actually almost California-like or United States-like in terms of it puts the wine variety on the label for you. So it's not as confusing as you might think. I mean, the German's very annoying, but aside from that, I think it's pretty reasonable.
German Riesling, that's my favorite.
Is it really?
Riesling in general.
I know Riesling is your thing.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a grape, I think, that showcases terroir, which is, kind of the soil, the elements, better than any other grape.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So we're going to taste the German Riesling, obviously, and then we're going to taste the Pinot Noir. Now, I know a lot of you, when you think Pinot Noir, you don't really think Germany. I didn't, but apparently there's some good Pinot Noir coming out of, what is it? Is it Fall? Fall? Is that where the Pinot
there is Pinot from Falls. This one we're talking about is from Baden, which is actually the third biggest wine producing region for Pinot in the world, behind Burgundy and California.
That's exciting. So yeah, we're gonna taste. Well, I guess we're not gonna taste that because we didn't open it. But we're gonna at least talk about it anyway.
We'll talk about it. Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with our first wine today. We're gonna go with the Riesling to start because I'm sure that's what everybody really thinks. What do we got there, Igor?
All right, so it's Riesling. So let me, I guess, give a little explanation. Oh, you know what? Let me pour it so you could taste it. I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
And,
so we'll do a little taste and a little talk all at the same time.
Yes.
Because you got to keep me occupied. I'm useless. Let's face it.
All right.
Is this a little fizzy or is it just?
A lot of Rieslings go that way. They almost have that fizzy feel. The German Rieslings, anyway.
Yeah.
Light alcohol. So yeah. All right, guys. So let me read it off, and then George will cut in with the label. So the wine comes from Weingut, Hermann Lutz. It's Thornicker, Rich, Riesling, Spätlese, Trocken. That's a lot of things to...
Sure is. That's a lot. But you know what? We're going to break it down for you so you kind of learn a little bit of German so that you can kind of get all this stuff in one kind of thing. So go ahead.
So let's go with the name of the producer. Weingut. So that's like domain or chateau when you see it. So when you see that and then name after that, that means that's the name of the producer. So in this case, it's Hermann Lutz. All right, so this is where it becomes a little trickier. I think this is the part that confuses and maybe
Guys,
even
just so
intimidates
you
people.
know, it's so confusing. I brought notes because I didn't want to miss out on anything. Okay.
You know what? It's a learning curve. Thornicker, Rich. So Thornich is a commune within the Moselle, and when you see er at the end, it's equivalent of apostrophe s.
In other words, coming from.
Yes.
Right.
So that's the commune. Then Rich. That's the vineyard within that commune.
And it's always labeled like that, right?
Yes.
It's
commune, vineyard.
and then the vineyard.
Yes.
Right. And vineyards can stretch into multiple little villages or communes. So like one vineyard can be in 2 or 3 different villages depending on how it's
correct.
That's why they do it like that. So be aware of that while you're doing that.
The other thing George said, Riesling. So it says Riesling on the bottle, and Germany makes obviously a lot of Riesling. That's what people know it for. But there's Pinot Noir. There's also Sylvaner, Spätburgunder. There's other grapes. So the name of the grape would be also listed. In this case, we do Riesling because that's the most exported grape of all the German kind of grapes into the U.S.
There are a bunch of them that you can get.
Well, so there's Spätburgunder, which is Pinot Blanc.
Right. Spätburgunder, right.
Grauburgunder. Grau is great, so it's Pinot Gris. And they should make soft blancs. You rarely see them, but they make excellent example of soft blancs too. So, and there's many more. I'm just kind of blanking on top of my head, but there's.
I mean, we're not going to talk about every grape. We're not doing the wine.
This is Riesling.
Yeah.
All right, so we got the Riesling. Okay, next is Spätlese. So that literally means late harvest. It's the ripeness level. So you have Cabernet, Spätlese, Auslese. So these are a ripeness level. How much sugars when they were picked. So a lot of Spätleses, George, to kind of make the point that you made earlier, they're really low in alcohol. We're talking about 8.5%,
right,
because the sugars are not fermented out. That's
correct.
why there's on the sweeter side, and they're lower in alcohol. Really easy, featherweight wines. But this one has a trochen at the end. Whenever you see trochen, that means dry. So it's so even though the wine was picked late, they actually vinified it as a dry wine. And this one, it says 10 to 13%. So they don't give you exact percentage, but when you see trochen, it's going to be above 11% or 12%. If you see it below 10%, usually it means the wine is going to be on the sweeter side.
Right.
That's one of the kind of indicators.
Absolutely.
By percentage of alcohol. So, that's kind of the description. I don't know, did you have questions about that?
Well, the only thing I would say is that if you don't see trochen, you cannot assume that it's a dry wine.
Yes.
No matter if it says Cabernet, Spätlese, Auslese, whatever, it can be picked at different levels of ripeness, so
yes,
higher sugar at harvest,
yes,
and still be vinified down to a very dry wine, which this one kind of is. It lives up to its thing here. So the other thing too is, on the label, sometimes it'll say Produktwein.
Yeah.
Produktwein is going to be connected to these other names, Cabernet, Spätlese, Auslese. So it's just a higher level of wine quality within the German, wine hierarchy.
Yes.
Okay, from the government.
Yes.
Now, we'll talk later about the GG and the VDP.
Yes.
Which is like a private consortium of growers that have like an even higher
yes,
level of requirements for quality. You're getting more of that racy white kind of thing. This is a nice, even though it's dry, it's got a lot of roundness to it.
Yes.
Which is probably because it's an Auslese, is it a Spätlese?
Spätlese, yeah.
So it was picked a little bit later
yes,
in the harvest time. So that's really good. Yeah, I like that. To me, the nose conflicts a little bit with the palate. The nose is almost more tropical.
Yes.
Whereas the palate is very acidic.
Yes.
Nice, lemon, but like a Meyer lemon, grapefruit, kind of thing going on without that tropical influence on the palate. I really like this one. This is good. What are you charging for this bad boy?
This is 39.
Oh, very good. Yeah. I mean, see, I wouldn't have a problem paying $39 for this.
Yeah.
I would have a problem paying $39 for, like, I don't know, La Crema. I mean, I know La Crema's not $39.
Stuff,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not
Yes.
a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah, no mass-produced stuff. I think you could taste mass-produced stuff, and a lot of the times, I think it does come down to what a consumer, wants to pay for a bottle of wine. So it depends on how much you want to compromise.
For sure,
Yeah.
And I think that gets back to our conversation about, like, I prefer red as to white. It's an allocation of resources. That's all. Oh,
Yes.
we don't have a wine that has the VDP, but see this, the tri-grape, this is also VDP, isn't it? Isn't that a marking for VDP?
Which designates quality. So the grape you were talking about, it's Gros Gavak. Well, so Gros Gavak, that's the highest designation for dry Rieslings.
It's like a Grand
dry
Cru.
wines.
It's like a Grand Cru designation, right?
Grand Cru, but it's only dry wines.
Right, can't be sweet. So
No.
it has to be, be a troche.
And like I said, it's not only Riesling, but once again, Riesling is the most kind of renowned grape. So VDP and GG is the highest designations for that.
So if you see GG, you'll know that this is like a premier vineyard or a premier producer. That's got that top tier. And you're going to pay more, obviously, but, okay,
comes with the
whatever.
price. So if you see a higher price point in GG, that you shouldn't be surprised.
And that's the other thing I wanted to mention, too. Like, a lot of, because of the terroir, the terrain in Germany, you're on deep slopes. So it takes a lot of hand picking to get these grapes. You can't come in there with a big commercial harvester and do all that. So as you get up in ripeness, so as you're going into the Auslesen, the Beerenauslesen, the ice wine, the Trocken Beerenauslesen, they get more expensive because they have to hand pick these little baby grapes.
Yes.
I mean, and they're looking for certain things in ripeness. So don't feel bad. Like, that's where your money's going. You're not just lining somebody's pocket. It's some jabroni waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and having to pick these stupid grapes that are like all raisiny and whatever. So don't feel bad if you're paying a little extra money. You're not just lining somebody's pockets. There's actual people going in there and doing manual labor to get this stuff. So I don't feel bad paying a little bit more to get a little bit of artistry in this case. It's kind of like the Rhone Valley, right? Like on
Northern
Rhone, very steep slopes. You're paying extra money because there's a lot of work that goes into cultivating these grapes.
Just piggyback to what you're saying, that's where I think the quality comes in. So first, like Marlborough, for example, the Sauvignon Blanc, everybody's like, oh, that's such a great value, they're cheap. Because it's flat land and they're using tractors to pick up all the fruit. So what do you get when you get tractors? You get a whole bunch of bad fruit bunched in with your good fruit, and you have a mediocre wine. Here, they're picking grapes that are perfect grapes for making wine. So it's a lot of manual labor, as you were saying, and you're getting best quality grapes from the steeper sides. So sometimes you say like, oh, well, I found a Spätlese for like $18. How come this is like $38? Well, the Mosa, like many other regions, they kind of expanded into lesser areas. And typically, producers, like everywhere else, once you kind of start learning wine, you figure out who's good at their craft and who's just kind of in it to make a lot of money.
So that's big. And then also, did you talk about that it was from Mosel? Did we talk about that?
You might have mentioned it in the beginning, but yes, this is
So on the label right here, usually, like the region, the bigger region, well, not usually, they're always on the label. Some cases very small, like it is over here, and some cases huge. Right at the bottom, so you kind of know where you're getting your wine from, just generally. And I think that's it as far as I'm concerned. Oh, the other thing. Look at that, screw cap.
Yes, screw cap, which is not always the rule, but it's fun to open. And one of the
easy
things,
to keep.
Yes. Put it in the fridge. And Riesling, if you put it in the fridge, because of its great acidity, it'll still taste fresh 5 to 6 days after you open it.
Up until Auslesen, which would be Cabernet, Spätlese, and Auslesen, they can be vinified either sweet or dry. Once you get past there, once you get into BA, the Trocken Beerenauslesen, and the ice wine, they're always going to be sweet. So bear that in mind when you're making your purchases. If you want something dry, look for the word Trocken. We're going to say it again, over and over again. If you want something that's a classic, like, Riesling that you're thinking about, that isn't super sweet or off dry, you're going to want to look for that word Trocken. Okay, I think that's it. So we're there for the Riesling. Now, let's talk about this Pinot Noir here.
Let's do it, George.
So, as I said, I am not familiar with Germany. You have a wine shop, so obviously you know a lot more about the path less traveled. And I did not realize that there was such a Pinot Noir community in Germany. What do they call it in Germany in terms of what they call it by grape? So everybody knows what you're talking about.
So this label says Pinot Noir, but frequently it would say Spätburgunder. Red Burgundy, actually, kind of translated. Weißburgunder, it's white Burgundy. Grauburgunder, gray Burgundy. So
Pinot Noir and Pinot Gris and Pinot Blanc. Or Pinot Blanc and Pinot Gris. Whatever.
So this one actually says Pinot Noir, but Pinot Noir it's been made in Germany for 1,100 years. I think they actually have records. They don't know when it was started being made in Burgundy, but in Germany, it's been 1,100 years, and still it's kind of anomaly, especially in the U.S. marketplace. I would say 99% of the time I hear, oh, I didn't know Germany made Pinot. And they're on the lighter end, as you were mentioning earlier. This is not Russian River Pinot, which to me is probably the biggest, most full-bodied Pinot in the world. This is, on the lighter end, a lot of tart fruit really dominates here.
Again,
really
colder climate.
Colder climate, exactly. And so this particular wine, all right, this comes from, it says on the back, Weingut Zierreisen. That's the grape producer. And this cuvee is called Jaspis. That's Zierreisen's highest level of cuvées. He has different levels of wines. Jaspis is a serious, that's kind of the highest level, the best fruit going to those wines.
Is that just for his
That's just
From
for his. That's related
That's his
to-
premier vine.
That's his
that
premier-
producer's premier.
And it's his
vineyard.
lines. He has a line of Chardonnays. He has
Okay.
a line of Syrahs. They're all under the Jaspis line.
Oh, so he does Syrah too.
Oh, he does. He's got like, I don't know,
In
25. Yes. Yeah, fantastic Syrah. Yes.
Really?
Yes. Fantastic Syrah. And it's the only Syrah that's I'm aware of that's made on limestone soils. Syrah is typically a schist or granite-based wine. So very unusual.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you get that?
I have one of his German Syrahs. As far as I know, I'm the only store in the U.S. that has that wine.
Okay, so
We were just talking about Pinot Noir, but here's the really rare and I think almost like a unicorn wine. It's Z-Rice and Syrah. So this is the Getstat. This is not the Jaspis series, which is the highest end. He does have that one, but that one is not imported into the U.S. This is the only Syrah that's imported into the U.S. And like I said, I think I'm the only wine shop in the whole U.S. That has these wines. The small importer who brings them in, me personally, I asked him to bring this cuvee into the U.S. because I read so many great things about it. It's the only Syrah that I know of that grows on limestone soils. So this specific wine, this is what the 2019 vintage of Jaspis. Decanter magazine listed out top German wines to seek out, and this was #1 wine on the list.
Really?
This exact cuvee, yes.
wow.
I asked the importer to bring this wine in just for me. So I think, besides whoever else he sells it to, I think I'm the only wine shop that has this wine.
Again, I'm super impressed with the fact. I mean, I had no idea that I'd find a Syrah coming out of Germany.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's exciting, and I will buy that. We said $36.
$36.99. Yes.
$36.99.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me if I'm right in this assumption or not. Is at least unusual and maybe singular in the fact that so much information is on the back of the label,
Yes.
and very little information is on the front of
Yes,
the label. Is
yes.
that's not typical? Is that right?
You know what? I don't know because frequently importers make the labels rather than the producers.
Even the front and back, huh? Okay.
Yeah,
I know on the back,
the
yeah,
back for
right.
sure. Yes, yeah. So I think the front label. You're right. It's a label that goes out locally, domestically in Germany, or if he exports to England, U.S., whatever. But the back label is typically made by the importer or
Okay.
importing company that brings the wine in whatever country it's coming.
Okay. I also noticed that both of these don't have a Pradokatswein distinction like a Cabernet or a Space Laser. Is that because that's land vine?
You know what? So for this, I'm not 100% sure, but I know a lot of producers, even some really great producers, they don't want to follow all the strict rules. So they're kind of like, they're not allowed to be part of the kind of jurisdiction.
It's like Super Tuscans in
It's
Italy.
exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Okay.
Sassicaia is probably one of the best wines, in Italy, and it's kind of, basically
It
like
was
a
listed as table wine
Table
for
wine.
the longest time before
Yeah.
the IGT and
Yes.
all that. Yeah, okay. All right, so I just wanted to point that out. So you're not going to find Trocken on here. You're not going to find any of those things that we just talked about. It says land wine, which means a lot of this stuff you're going to have to go by alcohol levels to understand how dry it is.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got 13% ABV on this one.
Yes.
2019. And this one was how much again? The Pinot?
The Pinot is 66.
66. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a good chunk of change. But I mean, again, I haven't tasted it, so I don't really know.
Context, George, that's the context we were talking about. So $66, it's not a Tuesday night wine per se.
Sure.
But when Decanter magazine says it's the #1 German wine to seek out, that's pretty high praise.
Yeah, and isn't Decanter based in Europe?
Yes,
like
it's
aren't
a-
they a European magazine?
Yeah.
Okay, so-
England, I think. Yeah.
So that's good because then you get like a European perspective.
Yes.
They have like a more European, like if they're talking about a European wine, not that I wouldn't pay attention to like Wine Spectator, but like I almost feel like, it's like I'm a Yankee fan. I'm listening to radio in New York for the Yankees.
Yes.
I'll get more information Yankee focused from New York
Yes.
than I would get from say ESPN generally. So
Yes.
same kind of an idea. Okay. Anything else you want to say about the Syrah?
It is very reductive in style. So this is a wine that needs to be opened up. It's got initial funk on it, but then once the wine starts opening up, a solid hour, it's beautiful wine.
Okay.
Beautiful Syrah, yeah. And it'd be great to taste it with Syrah made from on granite or schist soil to see the differences.
So
Yeah.
this is again from my eyesight stinks. from Badischer,
Yeah, Landswein, yeah.
Landswein. So
Yeah.
the town of Badisch.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's Landswein, so there's no specific vineyard
Yes.
indicated, right? Okay, this one is also 13% ABV.
Yes. Well, so both the labels are good in the sense that this one says Pinot Noir, actually instead of Spätburgunder, so there's already no confusion. And this one says Syrah.
So Pinot Noir
Yeah.
and Syrah.
Yeah.
And of course, I'll cut these labels in so we'll get a chance to see them.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's pretty much the idea of Germany. Again, you know, they have their rules just like most of European countries. Their rules are more based on the ripeness of the grape
Yes.
rather than the place, even though the place does have some factors as well. You're going to find mostly Riesling and Riesling, Pinot Noir, Sylvaner, Pinot Gris, Pinot Grigio.
Yeah.
And then, just have some fun with it. I mean, look, we talked about the label. Read those labels. Don't be afraid. A lot of these things, like German, is like a mashup of a bunch of different words. So once you learn those little breakdowns, like we talked about,
Yes.
it'll be easy for you to kind of get an idea of what you're drinking and then pick something good. Follow the alcohol by volume. Look for the word trocken
Yes.
for a dry, and just have a little fun with it.
Yeah, George, you know, I would add, I think you're kind of describing some indicators for a consumer to kind of take a leap of faith, maybe, and get a bottle. I would say, if a good thing, and this is what I do, I put a lot of these wines on my website, and I try to give as much information as possible. The critical reviews, the background information about the town, where it came from, tasting notes. I think maybe that's a good indicator to like
Vinusrevy.com, right?
Vinusrevy.com.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, of course, I'll cut in all your social media connections and whatnot. We'll
Yes.
put a little link in the description box. So if you want to pick out some wine, you can go directly to the link in the description box and go right to his site, pick up one of these wines or anything else that we tasted today, or ever. I mean, he's got a bunch of wine on there. I mean,
You know what? I think it's the best way to shop for wine.
I agree.
As you become adventurous. I think in the shop, you have obviously the bottle with the label and the price point. Where on the website, you have a whole lot of information that makes it less intimidating to commit to a wine.
Make sure you get to his website, read up on these. I'm going to report back on this Syrah. I'm not going to wait too long. I know I probably should give it a couple of years, but screw it. I'm going to do it anyway. If you have any questions about specific things that you're reading in German wine labels, you can leave a link in the description box. I'm sorry. You're not going to leave a link. You can leave a comment, rather, and I'll go ahead and
leave
answer.
a link as well. Yeah,
you can leave a link if you want, but I mean, I don't know what good that's going to do you. But leave a comment below. You can certainly go into his website and comment on your YouTube page.
Yes.
And you can ask him questions directly. He's got a couple of videos coming out, and just stay tuned, and we'll just keep you up to date. We'll just keep tasting these wines, keep reading these labels, and give you the tools to go out and effectively pick out a great wine, especially when you don't know what you're looking at. All right, so that's Igor, the GOAT.
Good.
George, Wine by the Bay TV. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.